Welcome back to day 2 of Intro to Python. Yesterday, we talked about basics of programming in Python, problem formulation and solving formulated problem, and variables and literals. And then we learned about basic data types in Python, strings, integers, floating point numbers, and Boolean data, which can have true or false. And using the input function, we learned about reading input from a user. And using the print function, we learned how to write output to display. And also we learned about relational operations and Boolean operators whose results are true or false. And using those Boolean values, we learned how to use if statement. So in general, in programming, we start with the problem formulation that consists of input and desired output. So one example was starting with an array of integers and desiring the output, that is the sum of integers in the array. Oh. And then we talked about variables and literals. So we can create and assign a value to a new variable using the equal sign. On the left side is the name of the new variable, which gives a pointer to a location where the data are stored. And on the right side here is string literal, which defines the value to be stored in the memory. Talked about basic data types, string, integer, floating point numbers, and booleans. And using an input function, we learned how to get input from user. And because this is always a string, if it is desired to be an integer, we have to cast it to other type. And for relational operations and Boolean operators, it's simple. Inequality signs we used are actually relational operations, and true or false, and or and not. These are keywords for Boolean operators. And we learned about if statement. If some Boolean statement, then colon, then it will run code in this block. And there is a keyword named pass that does nothing but keeps the philosophy of indentation syntax in Python. And there is an optional else if statement. Again, if this is false, we check this condition. And then if this is true, we run this code. And if none of the statements in if condition or else if conditions are met, then the code under the else block is run. So here we go with the day 2 materials. Today, we will talk about repeating code in loops, including the for loop and while loop. And we will talk about various types of collections, including lists. And we will do basics of reading and writing files. Regarding final homework and final quiz, as you know, they are required for students taking this workshop for UCLA credit, and I will give you more detailed instructions on these tomorrow. So yesterday we left off with this task, the progressive income tax rate example. So let's consider the situation where the progressive income tax is mandated as this table. The first $5,000 of income, it is 0%, and for next $10,000, it is 7%, and therefore the next 15,000, it is 15, and the remaining is 25%. I think it's lower than actual tax. But yeah, here's how it works. If your taxable income is 70,000, the income tax payable is 0% times the first 5,000, and 7% times 10,000, and 15% times 15,000, and 25% for the remaining $40,000. Have you tried it at home? Let's complete this now. So we get user input using the input function, and we change it to an integer. Then let's think about a new variable starting with 0 to store the total income tax payable. And if income is less than 5,000, we don't do anything because it is 0. Let's consider other cases. What if income is greater than 5,000? Then we will check if income less 5,000 is greater than 10,000. Let's put pass here first, and then otherwise we add to the text. Now you add to the text income minus 5,000 times 7%, 0.07. And if this curve is greater than 10,000, we just add 10,000 times 0.07. And then I think we are done with this part. And then if income minus 15,000, 5,000 plus 10,000, is greater than next 15,000. We add to the text 15,000 times 15%. Else, we add to the text income minus we're doing something wrong, right? Let's keep on writing anyway. And the last condition is if income minus 30,000 is greater than 40,000. Then rest of it is taxed by 25%. So we add to the tax %. Actually, this block has to be run only if your income is greater than 15,000, right? And then I had to indent this block of code by one level. Let's try this code. And what is missing? I forgot to put a colon here. Let's try income of 1,000. And at the end, we need to print X. So if income is 1,000, the tax should be 0, right? Is it 0? Yes. And then for yep.
For the if income is greater than 15,000 and the if statement below, shouldn't it be if income minus 10,000?
This one,
Yes.
let's see. I think this 15,000 is this 5,000 plus the next 10,000.
Yes.
Yes. So yeah.
I see.
So if that value is higher than 15,000, then whole 15,000 times 15% has to be added to tax. And if the input is 70,000, the tax value should be 2950. Is this very correct? We can quickly check. 5,000 times 0 plus 10,000 times 7% plus 15,000 times 15%, and then 40,000 times 20%. And something is missing. What is missing? Actually, this thing is wrong. It has, on the right hand side should be 0. Which is equivalent to income is greater than 30,000. Because whatever value is higher than that, all parts of this should be text. Now, is it correct? Yes. So yeah. When you're programming, what you need to do as much as coding is debugging, like this situation.
Say greater than 15,000.
Which one?
The ones that say greater than 10,000, like
Great.
if income minus 5 values, then it's greater than 10,000, isn't it? Greater than or equal to? Like if you have, if you make exactly $10,000, then
if we exactly have $10,000, we
you still owe tax, right?
Would that yield a false
Where
statement?
if you made 15,000.
let's see.
Like if you made exactly $15,000.
Exactly $15,000, and then what happens? If my income is exactly $15,000,
Then
then we go to this way, and then we default to else block, and the same value is added anyway. Yeah. So in this case, using adding equality or not doesn't really matter. Yes.
So whenever you have an income that's greater than 30,000,
Mhm.
it's always gonna be also greater than 5,000. So if you put the 5,000 in the beginning of your code,
Mhm.
will it enter that, like, wouldn't you want to like straight up just enter the 30,000 loop? And wouldn't you want the 30,000 from the beginning? And then if it's not, then check if it's higher than 5,000.
You could do that also. Yes. But then you have to make sure that you add these parts also for that situation. Yeah, there's not one way to write the code for this one. Now let's think about how to repeat codes in a for loop. Actually, we talked about a little bit of it yesterday. But let's delve into it, and let's talk about how to use it fully. Let's think about this task. For a website, there are some requirements to create a user ID and password. And some of the conditions are that password should be between certain length of characters. In this case, let's think about 12 to 16. And they should have at least 2 uppercase characters, and they should have at least 4 lowercase characters, and at least 1 number. So the input will be a string from user input for the password, and output would be a single string, and it is valid. It is the word valid if the password is valid and invalid otherwise. So let's think about the structure of the code without knowing without knowledge of how to repeat the code. So first part would be input. It will be read as a string, so just input. Opening and closing parenthesis is enough. And then we will check these 4 conditions. And then if all these 4 conditions are met, it is valid, and otherwise it would be invalid. The question is, how do we check these conditions? Given a string, we need to count how many characters are in there, and how many uppercase characters are in there, and how many lowercase characters are in there. And if we have at least one number digit there. For that, we can think about a general concept of collection. Collection is a group of objects with logical connection. And we have already learned about a type of collection, and that is a string. String works as a collection because string works as a collection of characters. And for loops are convenient for working with each item in collections. The syntax for loop is starting with the keyword for, and then the name of variable that will store each character in a collection, or string in this case, and then keyword in, and then the collection here. So if you run this, you will see HELLO and then exclamation point, each character in this string. And there is another type of collection named range, and using the function range and giving one argument to this one, an integer, it defines a range, and for each number in the range, we can do something, and in this case, we can add this value to this variable defined outside, and then we print it. We will get the sum of the first 10 non-negative integers. Let's try running this. The answer is 45. That is 0 plus 1 plus 2 plus up to 9.
So Python puts indexing at 0 rather than.
Yes, different languages have different starting point for indexes, and Python started as general purpose programming language, and it starts with 0. Other languages more pointed towards scientific computing often starts with 1, like MATLAB or Fortran or Julia. But Python starts with 0, like C or Java or those kind of things. And like C or Java or those kind of things, if you say range 10, it excludes the last index, like 10. So 0 to 9 is contained in this range. And the variable s here is called accumulator, and this technique is used pretty often in your programming, so it is better to remember this one. So starting with the value outside and to do something to this variable inside a loop. you can do something like computing factorials, like using this kind of technique. And and actually, this is not the only way to use the range thing. You can look up the function documentation in Colab. You can just hover your mouse pointer over this function name to get the documentation. And if you are on Jupyter Notebook, you press Shift Tab to see this to make this documentation pop up like this. So these documentation keeps rules, hints, and examples to how to use built-in functions. In this case, we are using the first case, range stop. So this parameter is interpreted as stop. And then 0 to stop -1 is how it is defined. And you can also use 2 arguments to this one, starting point and ending point. And then it starts with the starting index and stops with the index in the stop -1. Not including the last one. And then you can also define the step size as a third argument. In that case, it will start with the start value, and it will increase by the value in step. If it is not provided, it is increased by 1 until we reach the value of stop. But let's dig a little deeper on how to find out documentation. There are other ways to get to the function documentation. Actually, there is a help function that prints out the documentation. And you saw this part already. And under here, you get to see other methods defined in this range function. And if you're stuck, you can always Google it, by Googling it, you can stumble upon the website named Stack Overflow. There is where many developers ask questions about programming. And if you have questions about programming, probably there are many other people that already stumbled upon that issue before. And if that is the case, you can find the questions and answers on this website. And more accurate would be going to the official documentation of certain version of Python in this website. And there are tutorials and how-tos around here. And there are many things like operator we talked about yesterday. So how do we define a range with step size of 2 with a range function and get a sequence of 1, 3, 5, 7, 9? We already run the help function of range, and we already read the documentation, so you might be able to do it right now. I'll give you one more minute. Are you done? So what should we put here? We know that step size is 2. And we are starting with 1. So it will be 1 something and then 2. And we need to give a step value. We need to give a stop value, and it should be something higher than 9 and less than or equal to 11. Because if it is 9 is omitted from the range, and if it is 11, it is still okay because 11 is omitted. But if we go over 11 will be included here. So if you stick to an integer, 10 is okay, 11 is also okay for this one. And there are methods to check if a symbol or character is uppercase, lowercase, or digit. And string has the type name of str. By using help function with this type name, we can get what kind of methods are available for this data type. There is addition, there is checking equality, there is comparison, we have there is another comparison, and they actually are equivalent to what we have learned before, comparing the strings, string concatenation, and that kind of thing. And we are interested in uppercase and lowercase and digit. So let's search it. If you look for upper here, then there is a method named isUpper. It says it returns true if the string is an uppercase string and false otherwise. If isUpper is here, I would guess there is lower here, and here it is. And here you also see is numeric. It returns true if the string is a numeric string. It can be converted to a number without error, and otherwise it returns false. Now that we checked that those methods exist, we can try using those methods. So this is a method for these are methods for a string. So how to use it is dot and then method name and then parenthesis. And these guys don't accept any parameters. So we can just run it like this, and it is true for a string containing a single capital E. And let's try is lower. It will be false. And let's try is numeric. It will be false, of course. And you can change the string up here and try 1, then is numeric will be true. Then now we have building blocks for task 1. Then now let's go to complete this task. Let's copy paste the code we wrote before. Where is it? All right. And let's try to complete this. So now we learned for loop, for character in password. And what should we do for this structure? We learned about accumulators, and let's try that. Let's try that one. So number of characters that starts with 0 and number of uppercase characters starting with 0. Number of lowercase characters again starts with 0, and number of numeric digits that starts with 0. And then for character in password, what do we do now? For each character in this input, we need to add 1. So we can get the length of the password. And then if a character is uppercase, we add 1 to number of uppercase values. And if character is lowercase, we add 1 to number of lowercase values. And if it is numeric, you need parentheses and then num n. We add 1 to num n. By the way, you might forget what these stand for, so you might want to add some comments describing what these are for. Number of characters, number of brackets. It is a nice habit to describe what you are doing in a comment, because like in a month you come back to this code and you might not remember what it was at all. And let's define in a code these 4 conditions. Password should be between 12 to 16 characters in length. So that means this. I think Python allows this one. A condition defined with 2 inequality signs. And it should have at least 2 uppercase characters. So this, at least 4 lowercase characters. And then at least 1 number. Then let's see some kind of bad password, because many people would have tried it before. Oh, is it invalid? Why isn't this? Because it is too short, I guess. Yeah, it is only 11 characters. I should have added 4 there, because it has to be at least 12. Yeah. You need to try several other values to check if this is right or not. Oh, yeah. Sure, sorry. That's not much. Any outer. Let's see. I think it mixed up 10 character and to 2 spaces.
Okay.
Yeah, it has to be consistent.
Right.
And yeah, and then this automatically inserts 2 spaces. I'm not sure why that was mixed up
Okay.
with 10 characters.
Okay. Is there a way to differentiate like letters from like exclamation point or?
Exclamation points and that kind of thing. Let's see.
Oh, I guess I could help it there, sorry, that's fine.
Yeah. It is there. We can find it here, and there are other things like is alphanumeric, is alpha, is ASCII, is decimal, is digit, is some identifier, is printable, is title. Those kind of things we have. So maybe you can try something like is printable and is alphanumeric. Yeah. That kind of combination might work for you. And let's think about similar but slightly different task here. For a website, it is required to write a program that validates a username, and it should be at least 8 characters, and the first character in username should be capitalized letter, and the last one should be a number. And again, input is string, and output is again a single string, either valid if the username is valid and invalid otherwise. And actually, we don't know how to access each character with a simple expression at this point, and we will get there right now. In a collection, to access an item at certain position, we can use indexing, and that is designated by a pair of square brackets. So if we do square bracket with a value 0 here, it gets the first character in a string. So it is H. Because Python index starts with 0. And if we change it to 1, it gets the second character of the string, and it is E. And there is a way to get to the last item in a collection with the negative value inside the pair of square brackets. So by doing this, we get a lowercase o. And -2 gives you second to last one, this L. And we can also do slicing to obtain a substring using a colon. So 1 colon -2 gives you a substring starting with an item at index 1 or the second item, and ending with the item at index -2, excluding it. So number index 1 means the second one, and index -2 means this cell. So the substring returned is these 2 characters. So we get EL. And in order to get ELL, we can do index of 1 colon 4. This is index 1. this always index 4, so it is ELL. And you can also do -1 here to get ELL again. And there is a function named len, for short for length, to get the number of elements in a collection. So length of S here is 5. What have we done? Oh yeah, I didn't run it. So length of this hello string is 5. Then let's get back to task 2. And let's try this task. We have a break with this, and we will return 10, 10. We are back. During the break, I got a question about indexing, and the question was, what if I want to get a substring starting in the middle of the string, but get to the end of string? How to do that is giving a starting index and not giving an index. Then it will go to the end of the string, so it is ELLO. And similarly, you can omit the starting index to begin to start from the beginning of the string, but end in the middle of the string. So if you put :3 here, you will see HEL. Sorry, HEL. Yeah. Now let's get back to the task. Username should be 8 characters. First character in username should be capitalized. The last should be a number. And we have input and output. Input structure is the same as before, so let's just copy and paste it. And we don't really need a for loop for this one. The first condition is that if the length of the input is 8, so this one can be just length of username equals 8. And the second one, the first character in a username should be a capitalized letter. So it is this condition. And the last character in the username should be a number, so you can put this is digit. So let's try USER NAM3, and it is valid. Just username, it is invalid. And then let's talk about this kind of task. You will read a number n from user and print a triangle of this pattern. If n is 3, the output should be 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. How do we do this? let's talk about range a little more. As we talked before, if we do this, it means integers beginning with 0 up to 9. So it will print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And as we talked before, we can configure stop and step value in the range function. So if we can also put negative value to stop and step size. So we can do this one. It will start with 9 and the step is -1. So the next value is 8, then goes to 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And with -1, it is stop value, so it is excluded. So this will start with 9 and end with 0. We can quickly check that with this one. 9 -1 -1. So we start with 9 and end with 0 here. And we can also combine range and length functions. So we can access characters of a string by index in for loop. So we can do something like this. Then we will also get HELLO exclamation point. I'm not saying that this is recommended for this particular task, but sometimes accessing a list or collection using an index is useful. And there is another function useful in the for loop, that is enumerate. So with this string hello, we can call enumerate function on this one to give an index to this string, to each of the characters. So this is the syntax for that. And enumerate x gives you pair of 0, 1, 1e, 2l, 3l, 4o, and 5 exclamation point for each round of this iteration. So if we print this one, oh sorry. So if we print it like this, you will get the output like what was in here before. So you can use the index value as variable I, and you can use the character with the variable C. You can it is also possible when you are using things like nested list or tuple in a list or that kind of thing. We might get to talk about it later. So the value in here has values in here has same, if the values in here has the same length, we can split it using this syntax. And yesterday we learned about print function and that it has a optional keyword parameter and the default is the new line character there. And if we define did we? I forgot. Anyway, it has a keyword parameter end. And by default, it is Beck's new line character. So for each character in hello, we can print the character C and define the end parameter of the print function as the type character. Then it will be type separated HELLO without a new line. So let's try these exercises, printing the word string hello in the reverse order using the function range. And tripling all the use of character O in user's phrase, replacing a single O to O. So hello word yo should be converted to hello O art yo O. Let's try it. So how would you do it? For I in range. So we will start with the last character in the string and then go backwards to the first one. So the index should start with length of the string -1, and then we will stop at -1 because we have to include 0, and step size -1, and then print SI. And we can put the end parameter with an empty string. Then it is exclamation point OLLEH. There's another way to get reverse this string.
Confused about why you have to go minus, like S -1 rather than this S.
If we are trying to use SI as index, the last valid index is length S -1 because the range of index starts at 0 and length stops at length -1. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And length of this is 6. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then length is 6. So we have to start with index 5, and the final one should be index 0. So it is length -1.
So
Here.
if you just read L, length of S is 6.
Yeah. Another way to do this is something like this. Colon -1. Then it will give you reverse of the string. because its indexing structure is similar to range. It is start index, it is end index, and it is step size. And you can omit the default ones. So the indexing structure is similar to how range works. The first one is starting index. Last one is the stop index, and the third one is step size. And you can omit obvious values. Oh, it is not it. Sorry. Oh, it has to be empty. I will not go deep into this one. This is what I used to troll my friend to show my friends that knows other programming language but not Python. And let's get to the next example. So 111 in user's phrase and replace it with 3 O's. So we'll get an input for each character in input. What do we do? Print C if it is not an O. And if it is O, what you do is print O. And again, end keyword, empty string. And let's just try this one. And then you can do this. Now let's get to nested loops. Like how we nested for loops, we can also nest. Like how we nested if statements, we can also nest for loops. Okay. All right. So we can write something like multiplication table using nested for loops. For a multiplication table, we will print out on each row. On the first row, we print out 1 times 1, 1 times 2, and up to 1 times 10. And second row, 2 times 1, 2 times 2, up to 2 times 10. And that is repeated until the 10th row, 10 times 1, up to 10 times 10. And this is how we do it. For the outer loop, we will put range 1 to 11. So the last value is 10. And in the inner loop, we can put another range of 1 to 11. And then we can print I times j. And then end with the type character for each value. So each value is separated by a type character. And for the outer loop, we can print a new line character just by using an empty print statement. Then we get this multiplication table. And let's have a short exercise using by putting some if statements. You can try this one. How would you do it? So after the first column, we will put a vertical bar, and after the first row, we will put horizontal bar like this. One more minute. All right, what we should do. For each row, after printing out one, we need a new column with vertical bars. So if, because J is the inner index, we check on J. If J is 1, we could print vertical bar and end with a type character. And after row number 1, we need a horizontal bar. So if I equals 1, after printing a new line, we print out hyphens. And how many of them are there? I think it's 84. Yeah, it is 84. Yeah, number of hyphens, that doesn't really matter that much, but yeah, it is 84. So, and that is how we get this multiplication table.
Can you show that?
Hmm? $84 because it is 84 hyphens up there. Because it is just 84 hyphens up there. Yeah, number of hyphens doesn't really matter that much.
How come the printed parentheses isn't at the end? It's above
Which one?
the third to last line.
Third to last line. This one?
Yeah. How can you put it there and not at the end? Or what's it, what is that doing?
This one is doing just printing a single new line character.
Oh, okay.
Oh, never mind, sorry.
No problem. And you will have to use a lot of nested loops in if you use Python in your work.
J equals 1. That's the index and not the actual number in the range, right?
It is a number in the range.
But isn't, you're putting it in the second column. So why is J equal to 1?
So after printing this value, which is printed at the first of a row, we already printed out a type character here, and we are here when J is 1.
Isn't J at 2 at that point?
Oh, J is right after this line, it is still 1. And we check if J is 1, and if J is 1, we print vertical bar and then type character. And then we go to J equals 2 and starts with the top again. And then we have 2.
I don't understand why the second if statement isn't indent or doesn't have the same indenting as the first if statement.
For this if statement, this is for inner loop. So we are going this way: 1 vertical bar, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and then 8, 9, 10. And then we just want to print out this bar just here, and that belongs to outer loop. And we check after printing a new line if the outer variable is 1 or not. And if it is 1, we print this out in a new line and move on to next I, which is 2. And then we run, and then with I equals 2, we run J equals 1, J equals 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That is how this thing works. So things regarding row belongs to outer loop. So this if statement belongs to our outer loop. And things regarding columns belongs to inner loop for J. So this one belongs to inner loop. it might be helpful if we print this kind of thing. So you can see what the values of I and j are at each point. And then let's move on to indefinite loops. The task is counting the total number of digits in a positive integer number. Actually, this is pretty simple with what we have learned so far. If we cast the number to string, how would we do it? How would we do it? It would be as simple as this: casting the number to string and getting the length. Then we get the length of this string to get total number of digits in decimal notation in a positive integer number. But can we do it without converting it to a string? With the value of integer we have, the issue is that we don't really know when to end. Unless we are doing a for loop beginning with 1 and up to that number, but that is too slow. That is because we have to go through the for loop that many times. But there is while loop that helps you get there quickly. So while loops repeat the code until the condition is no longer satisfied. So we can start with j equals 10, and here is the syntax: while keyword and then Boolean statement and then colon to begin a code block. And it runs this block as long as this condition is true. So it will print out the current value of j and then decrease the value of j by 1. Let's see what we get. Start with 10, and then value of j becomes 9. This is true, prints out 9. J is now 8. This is true, print out 8. J is now 7. This is true, print 7. J is now 6. This is true, print 6. J is now 5. This is false, and that is end of the loop. And in conditions or conversion to Boolean, here are the things that are interpreted as false: an empty string, an empty collection, 0 in integer, and 0 in floating point number. They are all interpreted as false. And anything else, mostly, are interpreted as true. So non-empty string and any non-zero numeric values, they are interpreted as true. So this is false, this is false, this is false, this is true, this is true, and this 1.1 is true. And I got a question earlier. What was it? Some character that is numeric without parentheses. It is then it is just a then it just refers to that method and it is not calling the method. So it is just true because it doesn't mean anything empty with the name of the function itself. So you have to be sure to put parentheses to call the method. Then it is false. Then let's get back to task 4. How do we count the total number of digits in a positive integer using a while loop? Here's how we would do it. So count value will start with 0 as an accumulator. And what would be the algorithm? We will repeat increase counts by 1 and then divide the count divide I1 by 10. It will be integer division because we are dealing with integers right now. And until when? As long as I1 is greater than 0. So with value like 375, in the first round, it becomes 37 and count is 1. And next round, it becomes 3 and count 2. And then next time it becomes 0 and count 3. So it will count the number of digits here. Let's see if it works as intended. Oh, I forgot the colon here. Forgot to print. Then we get the number of digits like this. Let's try another value. 95376. Then we get 5. Now let's think about another task. Let's think about a chatbot. It repeats users' phrases, except for questions. The sentence is ending with a question mark. And it answers, I don't know, when the user asks any questions. And it will stop conversation when user says nothing. Then what would you do in this case? What I would do is starting with a while statement, and then the condition will be true. And then we will check if it is empty. Yeah, of course, we will get a user input inside this indefinite loop. And if it is a question, if it is empty, we want to exit. And if the last character of the string is a question mark, we would want to answer, I don't know. And otherwise, it repeats the user's phrase. Then how do we make it exit here? That is what the keywords break and continue becomes relevant. The break command serves for premature exit from a loop, so it immediately ends the current loop. So this one, starting with n equals 5 and for I in range 1000, if I is greater than n break, what should this print out? It will start with I0, it will print out 0, 1, this condition is not met, so 1 printed out, 2, this one false, print out 2, 3, this one false, print out 3. And we go to 5, and then this one becomes still false, and go to 6, and it is now true, and then it runs this part, it is break, and it ends the loop immediately. Let's see the output. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And another keyword continues here. This just stops the current iteration and moves on to the next one. So if the input string is hello world here, and for each character, if C is either E or O, we say continue, and then we print out the character with end keyword with an empty string. Then what it prints out is hello world except for the characters E and O. Because when C is E or O, it meets the continue statement and goes on to the next iteration immediately without running this print statement. So what to do with this thing is now clear. We just put break here. And let's see if it works. So hi. Then it will repeat hi. What's your name? Then it will give me, I don't know. And if I just press enter, then it will break the loop and end of the chatbot session. And here is another exercise. Complete this code to print out numbers in a range using continue and break. So you are not allowed to change this range part. And just using the variable start and stop. Try to print out the values in that range. So if the user input start is 10 and stop is 15, the desired output is 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 on each line. So do not change the first 3 lines and using the keywords continue and break. Write a code to that does this. We will go into the break with this one and we will return 1110. We are back, and during a break, there was a question. So this was the proper ending for the task. And before getting there, I typed this one up here. And I didn't run this one, but if you run this one, it never ends because it is an infinite loop. Nothing is breaking. So even if you just put enter, it just goes on to the next one and asks for another input. And how you stop this? There is a stop button up here to stop it. And in Jupyter Notebook, there also is a stop button on the toolbar. So if you got stuck during the running program, make use of those stop buttons. And let's get to the exercise. So what would you write here? If I is smaller than stop, start. It will be continue after this. And if I is greater than equal to stop, then break. And then print I. And let's try 10 and 15 again. There is 10 to 14. That is how you would use continue and break for this task. And there are 2 more graded homework, and I will provide you a separate notebook for the homeworks tomorrow. Now we get to the list. So let's think about another task. Print an integer in a binary format. The input is an integer input by user. Okay, I will limit it to positive integer. And output will be an integer in binary format. And the algorithm will be in a while loop. Divide the number by 2 and store the quotient and remainder. And stop when the number is 0 and print the results. So this is how it works. So we start with a number, for example, 25 divided by 2, quotient 12 and remainder 1, divided by 2, 6, remainder 0, 2, 3, remainder 0, 2, 1, remainder 1, and divided by 2, 0, remainder 1. And then 11001. The reverse order of this is the binary representation of this number, right? So we will write this up in our code. But what is the issue here? We get the numbers in the reverse order of the binary representation. So we will need to put that in the reverse order. And we will use list for that. List is one of the powerful tools to collect multiple data. For example, it is capable to store average high temperature in Westwood like this. 68, 69, 70, 73, 74. So these 12 values will be stored in a list with this statement. And a list can keep one's favorite fruits like this one. So you can put multiple strings of ananas, bananas, mangoes, and apples here. And this defines another list. And list can collect different data types, and it can contain both temperatures and fruits in the same list. And the plus operator defines concatenation of the lists, just like how the strings are concatenated using the plus sign. So if we do this, we can see the lists that contain both numbers and strings. So list is a basic type of collection in Python. So it shares many things with strings. That is another collection. For example, lists can be multiplied by an integer to repeat it that many times. So we will repeat list of 1 to 3 times. And the length function, LDN, defines the length of a list. So this will give you 9. And like how we iterated over a string, we can iterate over a list. So for each element in 1, 2, 3 times 3, we can print each element in this list, and with a keyword argument and to comma, then it is 1, 2, 3, 3 times. And lists can be tested for existence of an element in the list with the keyword in. So 2 in 1, 2, 3. Test if 2 is in this list, and because 2 is in here, the result is true. And for an item not in this list, 4, then the result is false. And this can also be used inside if statements and while statements. And elements of a list can be accessed and sliced using indexing we learned earlier today. So with this, we can do numbers 1 to get a string TWO, because indexing starts with 0. And indexing and slicing can also be nested. So numbers 2, 2 will give you the third character in the third item. So it would be R, I think. It is. And negative indexing also works. So numbers -2 will give you FOUR. And then if we do this, we will get FOU, I think. Let's see if it is right. Yeah, it is. And lists can even keep another list as an internal element. And nested indexing can also be used again for this one. So bar -1, 2. What is this? The value is 2. So first we get to the last element of bar. It is this list. And then index 2 of this one, 0, 1, 2, this 2. And you could also try triple indexing like this. So bar 2 is 0, 1, 2, this list. And index 0 of this one, TW of this string, and index 1 of this one, W. So it will give you W. And using the append method, you can add a new element to a list. So we can start with a list of 1, 2, and 3. And you can use append method with parameter 0. Then it will be appended by the value 0. So the result is 1, 2, 3, and 0. So it has many similar things with string, but what is the difference from the string? The difference is that strings are immutable, so you cannot change the value inserted index of string, while lists are mutable, so you can assign values to an element to a position in a list. So if you try this one, s equals hello, and then s, if you try to assign something to this position, s -2 equals 0. So thinking you might be able to change this lowercase o to number 0. That is not allowed. That is the meaning of that strings are immutable. However, you can modify this string by going through a list. So we can convert the s to a list, and then in this list, you can change the value of an element at index -2. Then we get this list, HELL 0 and exclamation point. So casting to lists gives you a list of each character in a string, and then we change lowercase o here to number 0 here, and we printed it out. However, the string representation is just this one. So how we get back to a proper string again? That is by using a join method we learned yesterday. So empty string dot join at ls will give you the string again. So it is HELL 0 exclamation point. And you can try to figure out what methods do in the documentation. First, you can see what you have as variables using the dir function. here are all the lists that is defined right now, like cont1 from the first examples, numc, those kind of things, text. And if you put an empty string as an argument of this one, then you will see the list of methods that is available for an empty string. You have capitalized, you have is alpha, you have is numeric, is lowercase, and join, those kind of things. And to get the documentation for the join method, you can type help empty string.join. So this is the documentation for the join method. So it says concatenate any number of strings. The string whose method is called is inserted in between each given string. The result is returned as a new string. And it gives you an example. Dot for a string with a single dot join, and then list of several strings, it will gives you ab.pq.rs. This is what we have learned about a join method. And here is an exercise. Find out what methods lists have and read about sort and reverse methods of a list and try running this code. So you can run dir with an empty list as an argument. You get the list of methods here. And we have covered append earlier. And there are other more methods here. And there are reverse and sort. And to get the documentation of these, we can do something like this. Empty list that reverse and help. Then this is the documentation of reverse. It just says reverse in place. And for sort, it says method of built-in list instance, stable sort in place. So in place means that the list is directly modified by running this method. So after running this one, the result will be the L itself is modified, and it is changed to the increasing order of 213. And reverse just reverses the order of the list in place, which means L is directly modified, so the result will be reverse of the previous L. So after running sort function, as a sort method, 2 and 3 becomes 1, 2, 3 in increasing order. And after running reverse method, it is 3, 2, 1. That's how you would use methods of list. Let's move on to reading and writing files. You can open files on your file system for reading and writing. And Python can open many file formats, including archives, by using appropriate libraries. But for this workshop, we will only talk about plain text files. Reading and writing from files is similar to interacting with users via keyboard and display, and it allows automatic parsing, analyzing, and creating reports in text format. So for reading and writing, there is a function open, and the first argument of the open function is the file name, and the second argument is optional, and it is W if you want to write a file. And we are having a new type of code block, beginning with. It defines the result of this one as fout variable, and it automatically removes this fout and closes the file at the end of the code block. So the file name will be my first file.txt as fout that right. Hello, my first file. And let's write 4 lines of string there. So we have written in the file named myfirstfile.txt. Why this kind of keyword is needed is because it is sometimes an issue if a file is written inside a program and it is not closed. And we are trying to reuse this file again. So this with block avoids that problem by deleting and closing fout when the block ends. And where the file goes, because we are running this on Google's cloud, on the left side we have files tab here. And you will see my force file.txt here. And you can open the file. And we have written the line here. But we intended 4 lines, but no new line characters are put there. So how do we do that? Before that, let's see how to read a file in a code. With open my first file.txt, and we don't need a second argument if you are reading a file. For line in fin. So Python can treat a text file as a collection of lines in and this one is each line of the content of file. So if we print this out, we will get only 1 line. So let's try it again by putting new line characters here and there. You can use whatever method you want. You can just directly write in this one, or concatenate with the line, or just put it here, or you can even use, you can put each of them in a list and try to use \n string.join method. And let's try reading it again. We will run this code again. We will close this one and open again. What is happening? And we see the four lines of text now. But we do see an extra lines here. How do we deal with it? As discussed yesterday, there was a strip method of a string which removes white spaces at the beginning and ending of each string. So if we run this, you will see 4 lines without extra new lines. And the other way would be using the end keyword parameter. We already have new line character there, so we can just end with an empty string and then get 4 lines. Here's the final exercise of the day. Write a Pascal triangle of depth n into a file named pascal_n.txt. Then print it out on the display from the file. So the Pascal triangle is an easy way to compute coefficients of the binomial theorem. I think they are in high school math. So x plus y to the power of something, we have this kind of expression, and each coefficient is n choose k. And it has a nice property of this one, n choose k equals n minus 1 choose k minus 1 plus n minus 1 choose k. That is represented in a triangle like this. we will not go too deep inside mathematical details. So 1, 1, 1, and then 1, and then this cell, this one is this one plus this one, so 2, and this one is 1, 1, then adding these two to 3, adding these two to 3, and adding it, and then 1, and 1, 4, 6, 4, 1. So for n equals 3, the output should be printed in Pascal_3.txt, and the content should be this 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 3, 3, 1. How we will do it? First, we decompose the problem. So get a code to write a triangle, something like this, on the display first. And after solving the first part, work on how to write files. And here is a simple algorithm for receiving Pascal triangle. Read n from the user's input first and create a list with 2n plus 1 once. Is it 2n plus 1? Sorry. 1, 1, 1, 1. I think example. I think it should be n plus 1. Then in a for loop, for k in range n plus 1, print the next row. And that is from 0 to something. And in an inner for loop, update the index range from 0 to something using the above addition rule. This one. I'll give you about 15 minutes and wrap up the class after that. So here is what I would do. So before writing the code, let's look at the board again. So we are starting with n plus 1 ones. And we only print out the first one. And then for the second row, we print out the 2 once. And then we start to update the list. If k equals 2, we add these two and put the value here. And with k equals 3, we add these two, put the value here, add these two, put the value here. So the indices we print each row is 0 to k. And for in an inner loop, we update the index of range from 1 to k minus 1. So that is, so then how the loop should look like. For k in range n plus 1. Oh yeah, we'll start with input, of course. And we'll put a list of n plus 1 ones. Okay, in range n plus 1. We update it first inside a inner loop. which starts with 1 and ends with k. And another for loop of range that's starting with 0 and ends with k plus 1 to print out the row. So we'll print out first. LM, prints LM, and end with 10. For this range, we do LM equals these two. So LM minus 1 plus LM. And then you might want to do print with empty argument. And if we are doing this way, it should end k plus 1. If we are updating after printing out the row. And let's see how it works. Let's put 3, and it is not right. So what is going on? What is going on is that this value is already overwritten by 3 here. So we are getting a wrong value here because it is 3 plus 1. So about this, I messed this up a little bit. So we will need another list of n plus 1 n's. And in a separate list, we will update this list. And at the end of the for loop, we should assign L2 to L again. And what did I mess up? Let's see. No, this is not what should be done. Yeah. So yeah, so sorry about messing up a little bit. So what should have come here is a copy of the L2 list, because if we just put L equals L2, we are assigning a reference to L2 to L, but the data they are referring to is the same. So we are making a copy of it using the copy method to avoid the issue. So tomorrow we will start with this, and we will complete the part putting it into a file, and we will go over this again. And there are some additional tests you might try. And tomorrow we will deal with functions, sets and dictionaries, and using libraries. So we will complete this example tomorrow.